Tim, good Tuesday evening to you,
Two
sir.
two for Tuesday, my man. But quickly, if you had to do a 2 for Tuesday for the Beach Boys, what would you request in WPLJ?
In My Room and Surfer Girl.
Dude, that's good stuff. In My Room, yeah, and Pet Sounds, by the way, one of the great rock and roll albums of all time. Pet Sounds, by the way, what we seem to be getting out of baseball these days. I mean, what's going on? We're not. Are we getting a season?
It's funny you should mention that, but we would be remiss if we didn't mention. So I thought you and I last night on last night's episode talked very fondly and appreciatively of Dave Portnoy. We didn't say anything negative, and he came back at us pretty hard to the point where, I don't know what viral means in terms of videos, but ours went viral. So if he wants to come on, Dave, if you want to come on and rap with us, we'd be more than happy to have you.
Yeah, dude. And I will take my suit off. I mean, you know what? Let me do that now. Let me loosen the tie. I'm Portnoying up. Come on. I'm loosening the tie.
Do it. While you loosen, and you brought up baseball. So
there we go.
It's interesting. So we had a big day in the market again today. And I was going to make a comparison between Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball.
By the way, not to be confused with Manfred Mann's Earth Band.
No,
Blinded by the Light. Great cover.
Which covered Blinded by Light, written by Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. Most people actually thought it was Manfred Mann's song, but no, that was by the boss. Anyway,
of course it was.
Sorry. I think about that every time I hear Manfred's name.
And we can at Bruce Springsteen as well while we're at it. But
we have to.
So Rob Manfred, the commissioner, and Jerome Powell, effectively the commissioner, he's a Fed chair. But what's interesting is, Rob Manfred should act. His action should be in terms of the purview of the best interest
in the game. Totally.
100%. But yet, if you really think about it, he works for the owners. So I hate to say it, but he's a puppet, and he's working for the owners, and he has the best interest of the owners at heart.
I think I know where we're going.
In my opinion, that Jerome Powell should have the best interest of the United States citizens at heart, but he doesn't. And what's going on here is the best interest of the administration and, to a certain extent, some of the corporations in the United States. And that, to me, is problematic.
Okay, so again, let's frame this. The baseball commissioner is appointed by
the owner.
Right. The Fed chairman is appointed by
the President of the United States. There you go.
That's so weird. So if you think about this, also, how did the Fed's mandate? And I realize that I'm a boomer and this and that and a suit and whatnot. But I mean, as I grew up in the markets, I understood the Feds to have a dual mandate. It was inflation and economic growth.
Right.
It was not goosing. You ever been goosed, guy? You ever been goosed?
Not in a long time.
I hope not.
The reason why, though, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, is I don't really have
much to goose.
Behind quarters.
You don't have much to goose.
My back goes to my thighs, and there's nothing in between. But that's probably too much information.
No, I believe the term is acetol,
which is a very dangerous and potentially deadly disease. Yeah.
No, be careful. I'm arraigned in the same court. So again, the Fed is goosing the market, and the Fed is clearly targeting the market. And I get that wealth effect as it comes to the consumer and whatnot is a really important thing. But what the Fed is doing right now in terms of supporting the market and supporting asset prices at any cost, at any expense, and any lack of credibility, I think is absurd. And here's the other thing about a commissioner overstaying his welcome. Commissioners are there to basically oversee the relationship between the game, the fans, the players, and ultimately the ownership. And at some point, that is a place where the commissioner stays too long. And we've seen this. We've seen the heavy hand of the NFL. And I don't need to get into that. It's a difficult time. But I think, this commissioner, and I mean Jerome Powell, has overstayed his welcome in the markets for the last 4 years. He wasn't here for 4 years. So since being appointed by this administration, and since we had an opportunity, by the way, we were supposedly in the best economy of the modern man of all time. And that's not a place where emergency Fed intervention and emergency Fed policy should pervade and persist well through this. So we came into this in an absurd way. And what happened from October of last year when we had the quasi stealth QE4, whatever you want to call it, it was masked as a money market issue, was the Fed goosing the market. And frankly, this is what's going on today is insane.
Yeah, no, and you know what's interesting is you're absolutely speaking my language, number one, and where we deviate is you've been smart enough to look past it and understand what it does to the markets, and I've been somewhat reticent to accept it because I do, and I think you believe in it as well, but I do believe in allowing markets to do what they want to do, and that's sort of been the push and pull. But you mentioned a dual mandate. One of their other mandates is supposedly price stability.
Yeah.
And again, I want to talk about this quickly. The 10-year yield, the 10-year bond should be the most liquid security asset, whatever you want to call it, on the planet Earth in terms of just the amount of people that are in it and the volume and its market cap. Yet you're talking about something last week that went from 65 basis points to a little under 1% back to 65 basis points in the course of 5 trading days. That is not stability, my friends. That is anything but stability. And the Fed has lost control. Their dual mandate is clearly, and I'll say this, I've said it on the show, to make sure the NASDAQ goes higher, to make sure the S&P 500 goes higher. And to that extent, they've been extraordinarily successful.
Well, again, they started buying corporate bonds as of today. The discussion of what they're going to do in the high yield market, whether they've actually done it or not. And I'm certainly one for jawboning, but isn't it ultimately about credibility? And when you lose credibility, and I think the Fed, effectively has lost credibility, but lost credibility some time ago. And remember how hard it was for 2018 effectively, but it really started at the end of 2015 when we got our first rate hike. Our first rate hike in what was, 8 years since the financial crisis. And then it took us a very, very painful 2.5 calendar years for the Fed to try to raise interest rates only 250 basis points, only to see that eviscerated very, very quickly and to have piled on, $4 trillion or $2 trillion onto the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve like that. And this is something that should be very concerning. And getting back to baseball, it's pretty sad times because baseball is my national pastime. I love baseball, and I love it for the reasons that are subtle, and I'm not going to act all, sometimes people get kind of arrogant about, like, you don't understand the sport. So I'm just going to tell you this. You don't understand the sport. No, I actually just think that baseball has something to be worried about here as being a distant third. And before we know it, who knows, man, the major indoor lacrosse league might be taken over too. So
maybe. Well, listen, I mean, and that's for another show, but lacrosse at the youth level is absolutely taking over for baseball. It's just a matter of time before there are not enough baseball players to go out there.
Who played lax? Who played lax? Played lax? Our buddy
Jerome Powell? I don't know.
Our buddy Dan Nathan played lax. Yeah. And he references what happens when you lay somebody out on the field. You effectively clothesline them, and in fact it's called giving them a yard sale. So when stuff's like strewn all over the yard, when you take them out, well, all right, so if we're not careful, the Federal Reserve is setting you and me and a lot of people up for a yard sale. Thank you, Dan Nathan. Thank you, Guy Adami. See you tomorrow.
Talk tomorrow night. Later, dude.